conclude this year's 2019 program. Brethren, I want us to look at a subject that I have titled, Don't Get Spoiled. I titled it, Don't Get Spoiled. I'm not using that spoiled as a form of maybe an adjective or so. I'm using actually not even as a verb in terms of what we do. It's more like a noun as I'm using it. And if you look at the next slide, which I have, you can see there, saying the spoils of war. I'm actually talking in terms of the spoils of war. When I say don't get spoiled, I'm saying don't get taken and become a booty. Don't let us get to become part of the enemy's booty, part of his spoils, that it takes away and it takes captive. Is what I'm hoping we can go away with today. If you take a virtual tour, these days you can visit places you have not visited before by either using Google Earth. And you open it up and you type where you want to go and it will show you the earth. And the earth will just zoom and move immediately to that place where you want to go. And you can begin to see a three-dimensional height, width and breadth of the place that you put there. And if you take a virtual tour of Greece today, you'll be able to see some of the places that are mentioned in the New Testament. Some of the places that Paul and the rest of the apostles traveled. In Athens, one of the big major cities in Greece, Paul was standing on a place called the Mass Hill. And on the Mass Hill was where he gave his famous sermon or famous preaching to the Athenians in Acts 17 about an unknown God. You can travel through what is called the Acropolis of Athens and Greece. Now, what is the meaning of Acropolis? Acropolis simply means high point. Several times in scripture, you may come upon statements where it will say that, and this king did what was good in the sight of God in the Old Testament. And he destroyed all the idols and brought down all the high places. I was privileged to take a tour of Israel physically, and I could see why those places were referred to as high places. The portions of scripture that I just used to read that didn't make much sense made a lot more sense as I passed through those places. In the olden days, people tend to build homes or houses on top of a hill. Because even in strategy and in war today, it is believed that if you control the high ground, then you control the battle. Because the people coming at you from below, they have to come uphill, and in shooting, they can easily overshoot. But you that are coming, looking at them from up, not only do you have a vantage point, enemies cannot sneak up on you without knowing. That's why they will have towers, watchtowers, and people watching them to see whether enemies are coming. And when you see an enemy coming, those who are defending a city can throw stones, they can shoot downward. Gravity makes their arrows or all the things they throw to go, and they have a higher chance of actually scoring and defending themselves. So cities are often built on the hill. Greece is no exception. And all those places that are hilly areas is where they built almost all their cities. And then in the city that's on top of a hill, they will look for another very high point, maybe the peak of a hill or a mountain, and they will actually put some watchtowers there. And sometimes they will put some kind of a shrine to various gods. Those cities are actually called Acropolis. Those high places are called Acropolis. And it simply means high point. And there's so many of them in Greece. Now, there's a big one that is in Corinth. It's the highest of the high points in Greece. It is actually called the Acrocorinth. I have some pictures I will have added, but they were too blurred when I blew them up to put them on the screen. And so I didn't put them there. It was the highest point, about 1,800 feet, higher than everywhere else. is about 50 miles away from Athens. 50 miles away from Athens. And it is one of the highest points they have. Now, in each of these acropolis, as you look at it, there are certain strategies and certain advantages. And for Corinth on its own, apart from the fact that it is the highest point, and on top of it, even if you do a virtual tour, you can see for miles around, even all the way to the Gulf of Corinth, to the sea. It is so big. You can see far, far beyond, and all the views are just breathtaking, even if you look at it virtually. That same place, there is a temple that was built there. And in Athens, they have many temples. They have many temples. The people there are philosophers. They study knowledge for the sake of knowledge. And they want to know what is happening and what is the end thing. That's one of their the things they always try to want to be able to do. They built a temple on the Acrocorinth to the goddess of love and beauty called Aphrodite. Apart from that, it's located in such a place that, according to the Corinthians and the Athenians or the Greek people, even they say two of their gods are constantly fighting over that Acropolis. They say the god of the sea, Poseidon, or the god of the sun, Helios, that they're constantly fighting over that place in Acrocorinth. Let's look at what happened when Paul went to Athens. And incidentally, he got to Athens, he saw the people seem to have a culture of what is the new thing. What's the new thing that's happening there? And there were so many gods. The funniest thing is, as people worship a particular god, if someone comes up with another idea that, there's this possibility that this and this and this can be, and maybe there's a god responsible for that. Oh, really? Okay, let's add a shrine to that one. And so people added shrines to so many different types of gods in Greece. And Paul got there. Acts 17, our first scripture. Acts 17, and let's look at chapter 6, from verse 16. From verse 16. Acts 17 from verse 16. While Paul was waiting, I'm reading the New Living Translation of the Bible, modern English. While Paul was waiting for them in Athens, he was waiting, for the rest of his entourage, he was deeply troubled by all the idols he saw everywhere in the city. It was a city that was very, very beautiful, it was prosperous, and it was well traveled and populated. And of course, there were idols everywhere. They have the largest number of temples built to idols anywhere in ancient times. He went to the synagogue to reason with the Jews and the God-fearing Gentiles, and he spoke daily in the public square to all who happened to be there. Verse 18. He also had a debate. With some of the Epicurean and Stoic philosophers. People who devoted a lot of their energy and time to understanding new knowledge. How does the sun rise? How come the sun is yellow? Or how come heat is hot? Or something like that. They just think about various things, various knowledge. He had several debates with them. And he told them about Jesus and his resurrection. And they said, excuse me, what is this babbler? This guy who's just talking, trying to say with these strange ideas he's picked up from somewhere. Others said, he seems to be preaching about some foreign gods. Excuse me, let's listen, let's not be hasty. He's had some idea of some foreign gods, so we don't want to offend some of these gods. So let's listen to what he has to say, okay? Let's listen to what he has to say. Verse 19 and 20. Then they took him to the high council of the city, the highest places where the people used to meet. Come and tell us about this new teaching. They just want to understand everything new. You want to understand this new doctrine. And so they said, you are saying some rather strange things. I want to know what it is all about. Verse 21 and 22. It should be explained that all the Athenians, as well as the foreigners in Athens, seem to spend all their time discussing the latest ideas. Sometimes that could be a big problem. Instead of trying to know how well people are aligning themselves to God's will, how well we are carefully trying to observe all He has asked us to observe. Some people spend all their time trying to understand the latest ideas, the latest teaching, and the new thing. And so Paul, standing before the council, addressed them as follows. Men of Athens, I notice that you are very religious in every way. A true diplomat. Verse 23. For as I was walking along, I saw your many shrines, and one of your altars had this inscription on it, to the unknown God. To an unknown God. In case there's a God that we have not thought of, in case there's a deity that we're not even thinking of, we don't want to mistakenly upset any God so that they are bringing problems in our lives. So let's have an altar to that God. And of course there are people who still put various sacrifices also to that God. So this God whom you worship without knowing is the one I'm telling you about. Is the one I'm telling you about. Been very diplomatic in talking to them. Verse 24 and 25 now. He is God who made the world and everything in it. Since he is Lord of heaven and earth, he doesn't live in man-made temple. And human hands can't serve his needs. For he has no need. He's all sufficient. He has everything he needs. He himself gives life and breath to everything. And satisfies every need. And Paul was telling them, you know, you don't know this God. You guys built a shrine to him. You've added him to your list of gods. Is this same God I want to talk to you about? Of course, Paul talked to them. And he preached the message about Jesus Christ. Talked about his life. Talked about repentance from dead works. Talked about the resurrection of Jesus Christ and how we human beings can have access to salvation. All the people listening to him, probably shaking their heads and listening. I think at the end of it all, they probably had some discussions and this guy is crazy. What nonsense. How can a God, someone as high as a God who is supposed to be divine, come out and become a human being, a flesh and blood that has all these problems? Not to talk of that, even die. Gods we know cannot die now. How can he die? Nonsense. Very few people listen to Paul. While Paul has preached, he left Athens. And Paul walked. You have to look at the map. I actually wanted to show the map. I don't know what happened. I actually had the map, his missionary journey, to show where Corinth was in relation to Athens. But unfortunately, I didn't remember to attach it. It's funny enough, it's in my notes. I didn't attach it. Paul walked 15 miles to Corinth. It's like living here and going to where we kept fish last year. Even though that's not up to 50 miles, okay? That's not up to 50 miles. But Paul walked a short distance away and he went to Corinth. And when he got to Corinth, he saw the same thing there. He will have seen the Acropolis or the Acrocorinth. And he will have seen the massive temple to Aphrodite, goddess of love and beauty. He will have seen how people are so concerned about worshiping idols as well. And they keep looking at the high thing. There's no way they can avoid it. You come outside in Corinth, you are doing trade, you are going to your business or whatever, the temple is overshadowing everything. Everybody will notice it. You cannot avoid not seeing it. It's like if you are in Abuja, for example, or as you enter Abuja, the outskirts of Abuja is entering Abuja, and you live around where Zuma Rock is. There's no way you can, everywhere you turn, you see Zuma Rock. It's right there in the background, it's right there in the horizon. You can't avoid not seeing it. Or the time when we were keeping the feast last year at Upper Spring, the hill behind us, there's no way we can't avoid not seeing the hill. It's always there. And the Acrocorinth and the temple of Aphrodite was constantly overshadowing what the people there were doing. And so when they got to Corinth, the people listened. They were eager to understand what he was saying. And it seems because Paul made 3 journeys to Corinth over his lifetime. They seem to have embraced what he was saying. But here's the problem. Here is the problem. The people in Corinth were open to understanding the idea of a new God. But the problem was that they didn't want to get rid of their existing gods. They just wanted to add it. Okay, he's talking about a new God, and it's intriguing. Actually, it's been smart They want to hedge their bet. The Corinthians, the Athenians were hindered by their philosophies, their knowledge that it's impossible for a God to become human flesh. It's impossible for a God to die. And many of them just threw out Paul's words. Corinthians were not so philosophic in their thinking, not so educated. So they accepted. But like the average individual, they wanted to worship Jesus Christ, they wanted to worship God, but they wanted to worship Him along with their own gods. That's what they wanted to do. That's what they wanted to do. They wanted to worship Jesus Christ and as well as Athena, from which Athens of course was named, goddess of what? War. They wanted to worship Jesus Christ and Aphrodite, the goddess of beauty. They wanted Jesus Christ as well as Helios, the god of the sun. They weren't willing to let go of what they were worshiping and accept Jesus Christ. And so when Paul was talking to them, it was easy for him to use concepts they would understand, and it would be easy for the Corinthians to understand what he was saying in 2 Corinthians chapter 10. We might read it and it may just look like, okay, he's just talking about the things we face. Let's turn to 2 Corinthians and read what Paul wrote in chapter 10 from verse 3. 2 Corinthians chapter 10 from verses 3 to 5. Paul said, for though we walk in the flesh, we do not war after the flesh. As Christians, while we are walking and living in this life, our battle is not really physical. You guys think because we are on this high place, and you can look down and see all the nations, all the people around you, and if the enemy is coming from somewhere, you can easily defend yourself against them. As Christians, we're not fighting flesh that you can easily see with your eyes. We're not fighting flesh. We're actually working in the spirit. Our walking with God is actually spiritual. That's what he's telling them. Our fight and the people we have to fight against, our enemies that we need to look out for. But they're not physical people you can see as they're coming down because you're on a high place. No, they are not flesh and blood. That's what he's telling them. And it says that our weapons of warfare, they are not carnal, but they are mighty through God. And look at what it says, to the pulling down of strongholds. Even if you are on the low ground and you have enemies who are in the high ground and they have built battlements or strongholds around themselves, said the things we use to fight them are powerful through God to pull those strongholds down. Casting down imaginations and every high thing. It doesn't matter whether you are in the low ground. The weapons that God is giving us is powerful enough to bring down all the things in the high places. You don't have to keep looking at the temple of Aphrodite. It is not the temple of Athena or any of the gods you have around you. You can't keep looking at them. All those things you keep looking at as if they're the ones that are going to protect you. You've set them up so high. Incidentally, by the time of Paul, all those acropolis has ceased to just be for defensive positions as it used to be in ancient times. They have become really just religious places. And said, you don't look at those places as the ones that will protect you. What God is calling you to should allow you to pull down any thoughts or any imaginations from any high place. And look at what it says, casting down imaginations and every high thing that raises itself or exalts itself against the knowledge of God. So all these high places, you see all these acropolis that you guys are looking at, all these high places you keep thinking of, Aphrodite is there protecting us. The God of war is there protecting us. The sun God is there protecting us. All these things are around you that you keep looking at and think they're the ones that is the source of your life. God is giving us something, what is powerful enough to bring those things down. And it says, against anything that exalts except against the knowledge of God, and bringing them into captivity, every thought, into captivity to the obedience in Christ. Incidentally, this is so relevant today. It is so relevant for our generation. We may not seem to understand it, but I believe maybe we do to an extent. We have many gods in this country, in this world, many gods. And I'm not just talking of the physical gods, that we know, Shango, or Shu, or Babala, or Ya. I'm not only talking of those. I'm not talking of maybe Shiva. I'm not talking of Buddha. I'm not talking of all the multiple gods and goddesses that are abundant in this world. I'm talking of ones that we don't even think about. Those things that we will see as the source of our wealth. Those things that we think are the source of our strength. Sometimes we think, for example, a job, it's my job that's paying me about, hey, $500,000 every month. Yeah, that's why I'm good enough to take care of my needs. That's why I'm eating well. That's why I'm having a nice house. That's why I'm able to pay and buy good clothes. We think those things are the ones that is providing all those things for us. We think it's our job that is taking care of us. Oh, I have money, and so money is my God. Because without money, I'm not able to feed well, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to do this, I'm not able to do this. Oh, I have a nice shop somewhere, and it's well stocked with goods, and I have good relationship with various suppliers, and that's what is helping me send my children to school. We, in our own way, we have gods. And guess what? It's not as if we don't love God. It's not as if we don't love Jesus Christ and His Father. It's not as if we don't want to live for Him. But we want to do what God wants while we still worship our gods. And so it is whichever one we think is favoring it at a point in time. You know, I don't want to offend Athena. So when it seems there are sounds of war coming from somewhere, let's go and offer sacrifices to Athena. Oh, when it seems that my love life is not doing so well, I'm having problems with my fiancé, my girlfriend, or my husband, my wife, let me go and make sacrifices to Aphrodite. Oh, when it seems that too much rain and something's not happening, let's go make sacrifices to Helios. I don't know what's wrong. My life is going too slow. I don't know. My friends are achieving things farther than me. Let me go make sacrifice to Apollos. At various times when we think something's going to favor us, people will go and make sacrifice to that. We bow down at the idols of our work. We bow down at the idols of our business. We bow down at the idols of what we want. I want to get married. I want to have a child. I want to have a house. I want to have a car. I want to have a job. I want to please my boss. I want to please my employer. I want to make sure I don't miss this business. Those are gods that are there. High places, they are constantly visible to us. Just like those high places, those acropolis are constantly in the foreground and background. And the minds of the Athenians and the Corinthians, all those things are also ever ahead of us. We live around them, and they are always there facing us. And we tend to often allow ourselves and our imaginations to look upon them as if they are the source of our well-being. This is what Paul had to contend with when he was in Corinth. The Gentiles wanted to embrace the new knowledge. You know, these days, it's a good thing to be a Christian. Everybody wants to go to church. It's unpopular to say you are a pagan. It's unpopular. It's popular to say you go to church, and even more popular to mention some of the big name churches you go to. But the problem is, as human beings, we want to go to church and still do the things that we are enjoying doing. We want to worship God, but on our own terms. And we excuse it, and we bring up imaginations and thoughts to rise against the knowledge of God. Paul had the same problem with the people in Colossae. And Colossae was quite a distance from Corinth. Quite a distance. On a map, if Corinth is where that T is, Colossae is somewhere around where Y is. So they were not so close. They were so far apart. But it's a human problem. The people in Colossae also, they want to accept Christianity, but they don't want to drop their own ideas, their own philosophies. And Paul had to face that. Look at Colossae, the book of Colossae. Before we go there, I want to encourage us that we need to be careful. We need to be very wary of anything that contradicts our knowledge of Christ, cheapens or adds to the simplicity that's in Christ. Anything that attempts to add to the completeness of His sacrifice, beyond the fact that we have faith in Him and we're living by His law, those things also, they are idols. and we need to cast them down. Every thought and every imagination that interferes with the prayer of Jesus Christ. When he was talking about that they may be one as we are one, we need to make sure we cast them down. Let's turn to the book of Colossians chapter 2, verses 6 to 8. It's not only the things we do, oftentimes it's the concepts and the things we put in our head. When scripture says, guard your hearts with all diligence, for out of it springs forth the issues of life, it's because the things we take into our minds affect the way we behave. Romans 2:12, verse 2 says, be transformed by the renewing of your mind as well. And so we need to guard our minds. And it is in our imagination and in our thoughts that things begin to rise up against the knowledge of God. And it can be tangible things, it can be concepts, and it can be ideas. And we need to guard against them. We need to pull down those idols. Colossians chapter 2, verses 6 to 8. Colossians chapter 2, verses 6 to 8. As you have therefore observed, as you have therefore received Christ Jesus the Lord, so walk you in him, rooted and built up in him, rooted and built up in him, and established, why did I copy the old King James here? And established in the faith, as you have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. And here's where I took my title from. It says, beware, be warned, lest any man spoil you. See, when we read that word, spoil, if you don't look at it, we may think it's to damage. It's not talking of damage. Let any man spoil you through philosophy. One, philosophy. The ideas and opinion of men who reason out things and they try to logically feel and see how things ought to be. In most cases, if it's against the revealed word of God, contrary to anything Christ ever related or taught his disciples. It's a philosophy. Then he said, vain deceit. Vanity is something that has no value, that people give value to. Something that really has no true importance, that people give importance to. And for Paul to combine vain and deceit, he's talking of something that's a lie, but also people carry around as if it's important, as if it's really monumental or big or worthwhile. And yet, it's of no significance, it's of no value. It says, vain deceit, unnecessary superstitions and lies. And after the traditions of men, okay, this is how we met it. Well, this is how it used to be. Oftentimes, tradition is the greatest trouble we Africans have to contend with. Traditions. You know, that's how my dad used to do it. That's how my grandfather used to do it. That's how it's been done from my grandfather's time. And that's what we must be doing. I was talking to someone recently, and the person said, I can never leave White Garment Church. Because this person has been asking questions and questions, used to email and ask questions about so many things. And we often would talk on phone. He used to be a good news subscriber that stopped, but still seems to ask questions and wants answers to various things occasionally. And I said, but I still don't understand. Why do you still retain this your continued attendance of this White Garment, Cherubim and Seraphim Church? After all, you yourself now know that this is not true. You know this is not true. You know this is not true. I know this is not true. See, yeah, I know, but since I can never leave White Garment Church, apart from the fact that that's where my husband is. I'm the one who brought my husband into White Garment Church. My husband doesn't really, care much about church. I brought him into White Garment Church. And I said, really? See, yeah. Say, my two children, they can never leave White Garment Church. They must marry somebody who's a White Garment Church. is it about the white garment church that just wear white, that just like wearing white to church? Is it just about that one? Look, you said this is not right, and they are going to Orioke on the mountain, and all the false vision and things like that they used to see. You should know enough. You know enough by now. Sometimes I feel it's a waste of my time talking to that person, but sometimes, sometimes I will not respond when there are questions or messages or whatever. But sometimes it looks like, okay, who knows? God is infinitely patient with us. Who knows? So why will you not leave White Garment Church? Say, well, my mother and my father were in White Garment. My mother's mother and my grandfather, they were in White Garment. In fact, I have 5 generations of my father and my mother from both their sides. They are constantly in White Garments. So I can't leave White Garment Church. I just couldn't understand. Okay, is it just because they wear white? No. No, it's not that. I just like White Garment Church. But you yourself, you say they don't, this is not right, this is not right, this is not right, this is not right. But I just can't be there. It didn't make sense to me. I still don't understand whether there's something there. And this person is a prominent person in the choir, of course, there. And I asked, is it because you are a chorister or something like that? He said, no. Of course, I enjoy the singing, but I can't leave my garment church. It don't have things to do with the reading of the Bible. Oh, she said, don't worry, God will know how he will solve all those problems. God will know how he will solve this problem. So oftentimes, traditions of men often is a stumbling block. And then, of course, the rudiments of the world. Rudiments of the world, things that are purely just worldly. That has nothing to do with our salvation and our growth and our walk with Christ. He said they should be careful so that those things don't take them away. When you use the word spoil, the definition of the Greek word, translated as spoil, it actually means to take captive or to lead away as booty. You go to war with an enemy, you defeat them, then you take their men, their women, the ones you don't kill and destroy their properties and everything, they become booty or the spoils of war, and you take them away. Paul said we need to be careful so that we're not taken away as a prize during the act of war. We are constantly at war with the enemy. And if we're not careful, he will take us captive. In this world, we need to strive to live God's way right now, today, because we're in a war. I watched a part of the ending as we left here yesterday evening of a movie called Blade. And this guy Blade was to get a serum that would turn him into a fully human. It's this mythical fantasy, something about vampires and so. And he was half vampire and half human, and he used to kill vampires to protect human beings. And somebody was to make a drug that he would take, an injection that he would take, and he would kill the vampire cells, the virus from his body, and it would return his cells back to fully human. And so the strength that the vampires used to have, that the vampire virus gives people, he wouldn't have it. We do know there's a vampire bar, right? Even though it doesn't turn people to vampire when he drinks their blood. It's abundant in the desert. Anyway, and he told the lady at the end of the day, so you know what? I don't want to take that serum. I don't want to turn back to a human. There is still a war going on. Even though people don't know the war is existing, but the war is there. And I am a soldier. I have work to do. We are Christian soldiers. We are involved in a war, whether we know it or not. And that war is waging against us and our children, those we love. And we need to be afraid and be careful to not allow ourselves to be taken away as captives. That was what Paul was saying. Paul said that it's possible for us to be taken captive by 5 things. The first one, philosophies. That is opinions and the thoughts of learned men. In quotes, learned men. Their opinion and their thoughts. Everything, I hope, all of us have ever believed. Everything that has brought us here. I'm hoping it's not because you read the booklet of the Worldwide United Church of God. I'm hoping it's not because we read the mystery of the ages, or we read our awesome potential. Well, those may have been where we started somewhere, but I'm hoping our conviction and the reason we're here is because we open our Bible, and what we read, we agreed with. It wasn't because, okay, you know, Mr. Armstrong said, or the booklet, the Church of God said. And you know, I read this scripture and I read this scripture and I agree with all of it. No, we read, we proved, and we believed. There wasn't anything outside the scripture that we ascribed to. If the apostles of Christ did not take it, then we shouldn't take it. I'm hoping our belief is not rooted in opinions and thoughts of men who seem smart. I'm hoping we are here because we believe what we read in the scriptures. There may be guides, but it is not those things, not those words. It is because we read it up and down, left and right, and we looked at it from all angles. And we realized, looking at this holistically from all angles, we believe what we believe. He said that we can be taken booty or captive by vain deceit, empty superstitions and lies, things that have no value, that we think is valuable. By their fruits you shall know them. And we should be asking, what are the fruits of whatever it is that we are allowing ourselves to become captive of, that are allowing ourselves to become despoiled of. He said we can be taken captive by traditions of men. Well, this is what my village requires. This is what people in my tribe believe. This is what, you know, according to our tradition, this is what we must do. Anything that rises against the knowledge of God, anything that we look up to, that is contrary, that exalts itself above the knowledge of God, Paul said we should bring them down, bring them captive to the obedience that's in Christ. And of course, it says elements of this world. So what we face today is similar to the same thing that Paul had to contend with. It's similar to what Paul had to contend with. The Athenians and the Corinthians wanted Jesus, but they wanted him in addition to what they already had. They wanted him in addition to what they already had. I'll read that Colossians again. Let's read again. Colossians chapter 2 from verse 8 to 10. Beware, lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of this world, and not after Christ. For in him dwells all the fullness of the Godhead bodily. Everything we need to know dwells in Christ, in his actions, in his relationship with his disciples, in the words he has revealed in the scriptures, and in the example he has laid down for us. For in him dwells all the fullness of Godhead. He is fully God, complete in himself. We cannot add to it. We cannot take anything away from it. Everywhere we go, we're constantly fighting. Everything we do, we're constantly in a battle. Paul said, we cannot have it both ways. Verse 9 was the last place I read. It talks about everything dwelling in Christ, who is the fullness of the Godhead. He is the fullness of the Godhead. Brethren, as we go back to our various places of work, our lives, let's not delude ourselves and try to be like the Corinthians or the Athenians and the people of Greece. Let's not deceive ourselves and tell ourselves that, you know, I can have Christ. At the same time, I can also worship my idols. And you know how we worship our idols? Anytime we put God's will as secondary. Well, you know, I really can't do this right now. Right now is the time I need to pay attention to this idol. Okay, there's no problem. So now let me put God back here. We keep doing like this. Okay, this one's time. Okay, this one's time. Okay, this one's time. Okay, this one's time. Okay, now it's time for me to put my name for a man or for a woman, for a husband or for a wife first. let me bow down to that idol first. But I still love God, you know, I still love God. God knows, God understands. Okay, now it's time for me to put my need for a child first. So this man here, say in that place, you can do this for me. Oh, it's time for me, that should be my current God now. Okay, now it's time for me to, I think it's my work, or my God, or my boss. Okay, right now, you know what, maybe it's my education. Okay, maybe it's my this, or maybe it's my that. We keep shifting and paying obeisance and giving worship and our homage to different gods at various times. We can't do that. God's not going to take that. It's hard to live for God today. You know, people these days use this word, and it's used everywhere. Tolerance and acceptance. Oh, don't judge. You can't really say. We often think judgment and condemnation are the same thing. You tell someone that, you know, this thing you are doing is not right. You're not supposed to. You need to try to overcome this. You need to try to improve in this area. You can't judge me. Don't worry, God looks at the heart. You can't judge me. That's not judgment. The scripture says, and people will say, oh, judge not, I do not be judged. You know what the Bible says? Don't you know we shall judge angels? It talks about people who carry themselves to court before believers when they're supposed to have people with enough wisdom to make judgments about issues and decisions about one another. Paul's message was simple. Oh, this one hasn't changed. Paul's message was simple. We cannot have both. We cannot say we want to have God, and we also want to have our own idols at various times. We have to get rid of the ideas of the world. We have to bring those thoughts into captivity and obey Christ. Every time we have to face God's obedience, His laws, this is what God says. You shall do this. And then something else comes up, well, you know, I really would have loved to do this. It's just that Apollos or Aphrodite or Helios seems to be, you know, they seems to be the one asking for worship right now. So, you know, I can't really do it right now. So let me, you know, God, I still love you, but hey, I need to do this first. Jesus won't accept anything less than that. The church is constantly in danger of being spoiled by the ideas of this world. Sometimes we think as long as I'm comfortable with it, that sense of individuality that, you know, as far as I'm concerned, I'm good with it. You know, we have free choice, right? I'm accountable only to God. So as long as it's okay by me, there's no big deal about it. If we choose what we're comfortable with as the standards that will determine what is good or not, I think there will be too much chaos in this world, too much wahala, too much trouble in this world. You know, in the olden days, abortion was totally unacceptable. Is it not acceptable these days? The culture allows it now. Getting pregnant before wedding was unacceptable in the past. Oh, it's acceptable today. You see people getting wedded and the stomach is like this. You can't judge them. You can't judge them. After all, they love each other. People living together, having 3-4 children, and then getting married after 4 years, or after 6 years, after 12 years, after 2 kids. Those were unacceptable some time ago. They're acceptable now. See, cultures change, societies change. And as societies change, the things we value constantly change. So if it is the society that will dictate what we value, then it's trouble. But each of us must recognize that it's a standard higher than that. And so when we don't meet up to that standard, we recognize that we're not meeting up to that standard. And ask the one who sets those standards to help us to meet them. It gets easier to match those standards when we recognize that is the standard. It is when we don't recognize that is the standard that we don't feel, you know, what's the big deal after all? What can I do? Because we feel, well, it's okay by me. We can't do that. Then we will not grow. Then we will not improve. I sometimes look at the scriptures and I see the scriptures as a relationship of a perfect God with human beings who are not perfect. But a God who wants to relate with individual human beings who are not perfect, but who recognizes that their imperfection can be moved towards perfection by reliance and trust in God. And they're not saying, you know, that's how God is, what can I do? He has to, this is our terms of following him. He has to accept what we will give him and accept it the way we want. In conclusion, brethren, if we really desire to be complete in Christ Jesus, we must do what Paul instructed the Corinthians to do. And what is that? What did he instruct them to do? We must learn to be bringing every thought captive. Every idea that we may have learned from this world, bring them to captivity and subject them to obedience to Christ. Let's not excuse our weaknesses. Let's not excuse or justify our shortcomings. Let's recognize this is a mistake or this is wrong. I'm not grown enough. I'm not strong enough. Let's recognize that I should be better than this. God help me to be better. Let's not justify. Let's just try. But ask him to help us to grow. That's the way we can achieve that. There's no way we can continue holding on to our gods and thinking, this is our time. We cannot have it both ways. What we think is right is immaterial. We must always subject what we think is right to what God says is right. It's not what I think. It's not what you think. It's what God says. That means we need to be finding out what he says. God has brought us all together for a purpose. And nothing he does is by chance. Nothing, absolutely nothing. I think we don't use that very well. If I happen to have a friend who is a doctor, and I know I'm not a doctor, if I have a sickness or a problem, before I will go around and start checking the internet and trying to treat myself, I will call my doctor friend and ask him questions. Because I'm taking advantage of the relationship that I have with him. If I want to build a house, and I have a friend who's an architect, I will call my architect friend first and tell him, I want to build a house, Are you free enough? Can you help me? Can you help me drop a plan? If I know somebody who is an IT consultant or an ICT person or an engineer, and I want to do something that requires engineering skills, or maybe in the course of my work, an engineer comes to me and gives me certain things, or a doctor tells me certain things, I will ask my friend, who's a doctor, what, I got this information from, last week I wasn't too well and I went to see a doctor that my office says I should see, it's on my HMO plan. And this is what he asked me, he told me, is it okay? I'm taking advantage of the relationship that I have with that doctor person. Do you know that even when some doctors know that what is wrong with you has no cure, or they don't know what is wrong with you, but you have come to the clinic, they have collected money for registration. You think a doctor said, I don't really know what is wrong with you, so let's try and see whether we will manage this and see if we try this doesn't work. They are changing and they have brought out a patient's bill of patient's rights, I think a couple of months ago. And I don't know how many of us have ever looked at that patient's bill of patient's rights when it was launched in Abuja. Abroad, before a doctor gives you a tiny drug to take, the doctor will explain to you, okay, what I believe is wrong with you is that this and this and this, it's like that they will use examples that can wrap your mind around. So that's the reason why I'm trying to give you this drug, so that if it is this, and I'm thinking, we should be able to know by tomorrow. But if by tomorrow you don't see an improvement, come back and we will see this one in case it is this one. Now, I'm not giving you the two of them together because this will cause this kind of problem, this kind of problem. And I also want, so they will explain to you. You see here, they will explain to you. You are what to a doctor? It's money. It's money. But a friend who is a doctor, unless he's not a friend, right? He will think about you, he will think about your pocket, and will tell you, okay, actually, what you're talking about looks like so and so and so. Okay. The time before we came to the feast, My wife was having some issues. I told you, this pain in the back of her neck, looks like in the brain, was a bit scary. And I called a couple of my doctor friends, and they told me, you know, that kind of thing, can't really be sure what it is. I told them what I thought it was. And they said, yeah, it's likely that. It could also be this or it could also be this. But in case you want to rule out this, let me talk to madam. And he spoke to my wife. Describe the pain. How does it come? Which part of the head? How does it? And she explained, say, okay. So the guy talked to me back. Say, okay, actually I think it could be what you figured is wrong, but it could also be this. And then he asked a couple of questions, which tallies again what I discussed with my wife. Because the day that thing started, she took something she shouldn't have taken. Okay? This green coffee with some drugs she was taking at that time. With coffee, they contraindicate. And of course, knowing how coffee affects what the components of the drugs was taking and how they were attached themselves to what's it called, the CMP, blah, blah, blah. And so I thought that this is why this thing is like. I didn't know it would get that bad, and it got worse. I didn't tell my doctor friend all those things, but he asked me those questions. Okay, did she take something like this, around so time now? Is she like this? And I said, okay, yes, she took actually this at so time. Okay, so that's why it's possibly this. But again, in case it's too much this and this, and he gave 3 types of drugs that we should get. He said we can either use this or at least use this. So I looked at him. One of them I really knocked it out. I'm not going to give her that. One of the dogs he recommended. I'm not going to give her that. So I now went. I called a pharmacist friend of mine. Okay, I also did pharmacy, but I didn't major in pharmacy. I cannot presume that what I didn't major in, even though I spent 15 years in the industry, I will still know and have all the necessary ideology and everything like that, knowledge. I could go read it up, but hey, and I will understand everything I'm reading up. But let me speak to a pharmacist friend who is practicing as a community pharmacist. So I called the friend and said, okay, my friend, actually this is what my wife is going through. And this is what a doctor friend said is likely the problem. What do you think we can use? I didn't even tell him this is what doctor said we should use. And he came up and he also mentioned 2 of the 3 drugs that were mentioned. And then he said there's a 3rd possibility. If it is due to nerve, it might be good to try and treat both. And I can give you a drug that they do not contraindicate. And I said, okay, give me the drugs. So he gave me the name of the drugs. So I went to the pharmacy. And as I got to the pharmacy, I want to see a pharmacist. So they called the pharmacist for me. I said, okay, here's what happened. My wife is having this kind of problem. This is what the doctor friend said. What would you recommend? Just for me to be sure, this community pharmacist is a practicing community pharmacist who's been there and knows what to do. And she thought, okay, it's possibly blah, blah, blah. And okay, can use it. And I said, okay, is it possible to use it? And she came up with almost similar to what that my other pharmacist friend said. So I said, okay, I will take this one and take this one. She immediately recognized I knew what all those drugs were. So she gave me the option, 1, 2, 3 drugs. I said, I take this one and give me this one. I know what she brought out, the first drug. And she told me the price, 6,009. I said, waiting. My friend, give me a generic that contains this same product from this same company. Okay, she now brought that one out. That one was 1,005. Pierce baby oil, maybe 175 naira. Johnson & Johnson baby oil, maybe about 1,600. It's just baby oil. There's nothing different from them. But Johnson & Johnson has been existing for decades. It has name, okay? It has name. It's grown, and so it's a brand. I said, will you give me a generic of this same methocarbamol? Don't come and give me this thing you gave me. Okay, yes, okay. And then I brought it in. And it's from a good company as well. And I told her, I know this company makes this product, so give me one of those 2. And I brought it. 8,600 compared to 9,000 something. 9,006, not 6,900, 9,000. What is basic? You go to your doctor friends, you go to the people you know. Brethren, God has brought us together, for one another. Let's share. So when the scripture says you should confess your sins or your problems to one another, share one another's body, which means things we're not sure of. Let's talk to one another. Let's ask. Sometimes before we latch onto something, we need to ask and leverage on one another's strength. My strength probably will be different from Mr. Lawa's strength, different from Mr. Akinbo's strength, different from Mr. Ayatogo's strength. Our strengths are different. Some may overlap, and we need to leverage on them. And when soldiers are at war, they don't fight as individual units. They don't fight as individual units. They will be killed quickly. They watch each other's back, and they protect each other's back. They look out for each other. That's the only way they will not be taken captive, taken away as booty or as spoils of war. We must do the same. And we must constantly always not assume that the new knowledge, the new understanding, or whatever it is, or even some problems we are facing is unique to us. We can ask one another, pray, can you help me pray about this? Or can you advise me on what to do? And let's be sure our advice and our inputs are based solely on God's word. Not on what we think is right, but on what God believes and says is right. So, our will must line up with God's will. We cannot, as we go out into the world and live our lives, begin to do like those people of old who want to embrace Christianity alongside all the various gods they have added to their retinue. We must let them go and simply put God first. That's the only way we can live truly for Him today. And God says, my eyes, 2 Chronicles 16 verse 9 and 10, my eyes roam through the whole world. Another scripture says the eyes of God are the angels of God that move around. It's not as if God alone can't see it, but He still uses His angels. Say He roams through the whole earth, looking for those whose heart is loyal to God, so that He can show Himself strong on their behalf. Brethren, let's live for God today, and not let ourselves be spoiled as we go out from this place. Shabbat Shalom.